Hi, it's Craig Wilson here, and welcome to the Making the Media podcast and our final episode of Season 2. But don't worry, we'll be back in the autumn with Season 3. However, we are going out with a bang, as in this episode, we're speaking with Peter Russell, who is the Director of Technology for ITV Studios in the UK. His role acts as a key technology partner for the ITV Production Labels, both in the UK and globally, along with news, sport and group marketing. Peter's previous roles have included Director of Studios and Post-Production and Director of Production Technology at the London Studios and Director of Technology for the breakfast broadcaster GMTV. So he has a huge amount of experience under his belt and knowledge to share. I began by asking him how he had seen technology change in recent years.
How my career started and developed remained reasonably unchanged, really up until probably 3-4 years ago, and then it was just enormously catalysed throughout the pandemic time when technology was really leaned on to see us through that very difficult period. I think it has changed massively. I think in that 3-4 period, previous to pandemic, we were kind of talking about it, thinking about it, planning it. Then we started to roadmap it, and then suddenly it just happened in the space of a couple of weeks. And I think that how that is best described for me is I think that it really felt like technology went from a service provider, if you like, and that's probably been a bit mean, but we were providing a technology service into productions and into studios in order to make the shows that we did. And how that pivoted very quickly was we really stopped becoming that service provider and we became an enabler. We suddenly became part of the business in a much bigger way than we had done before, and embedded in conversations right at the beginning of an idea, in order to work with the teams and understand the brief of that, and then sort of bring the technology armory, if you like, in order to deliver that through. So the way that we were engaged with the business changed very quickly, and the services that we kind of brought with us changed very quickly and just became part of a natural program, I suppose, rather than another business area they picked up with on the way through to making a show.
Do you think that's been a positive change?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, massively. I think I'd always striven or strived to have had that role previous, that we were just engaged with the business. I thought we had so much to offer and so much to bring to early conversations about shows and productions. And it wasn't that we were intentionally left out. It just wasn't a natural part of that stage of the program making process. For me, that was a massive win, and one I was really, really keen that we didn't default back out of. Now, really, once we were kind of through some of those challenges, that we didn't end up just clicking back to where we were before, that we continued that relationship and that engagement and the way that we work with the business as our strategy for future. Everything we've done over the last couple of years was amazing, but it wasn't very strategic. And right now feels like the time where we are bringing the best of that couple of years with us and determining how that fits and enables ITV to deliver its strategy in the coming years in lots of different ways, not just programme making, but across all of ITV services as our next 5 to 10 year plan. How will it feel to work for ITV, and what technology will you use in 5 years' time is now a really exciting conversation, much more exciting than the last couple of years, which have been much more firefighty.
Sure. I mean, a lot of technology decisions in the past historically have been, to put the best will in the world, that they've been engineering led. So engineering team would go out, assess a solution, and then perhaps bring that to market. Do you think it's now much more kind of workflow driven and driven more by the production team, so they have a much bigger say in actually what's going to be delivered from a technology perspective?
Yeah, I think that is probably the biggest change I think that I've experienced over the last couple of years. First of all, we now, the technology can do it. Pretty much anything I've been asked over the last couple of years, the technology is there to achieve that. In the past, quite often our roadmaps have been driven by the technology, by suppliers, by the functionality that they're able to offer with their latest upgrade or software or platform or tool. And has sort of started to determine some of the workflows that we've adopted, because that's what the system and the tool set can do. And from my role, and certainly from that for some of my team, it was really about understanding the latest offering, working with suppliers, and then bringing the art of the possible, I suppose, to productions and the business areas to say, we're now able to offer this as part of this platform, or this has just been released. That has kind of completely turned around the other way around now, that it's now not a case of let me tell you what it can do. It's you tell me what you need, and then we can go and build the right tools or put together the right processes that can afford and enable that way of working. And so I keep using the terminology in ITV that this is a pick and mix technology setup where we're not trying to force a production A into a workflow that really only works for production B because that's the tool set we have. We are now literally able to build and then bring back down an entire production platform for a specific genre of show for that bespoke purpose. And I find it really, really exciting. It does make me smile when I talk about it, because it's just such a fabulous thing to be involved in. It's not that I've ever had to sort of pitch the wares of others over in the past, but not having to worry about the technology limitations and being able to pretty much deliver with our partners anything and everything that productions want to use and want to do within reason, it's a fabulous place to be, I think.
And how has that been embraced on the production side of having that kind of discussion?
I think, again, wanting to keep defaulting to the last 2 years, but it came originally out of necessity, and having to think differently about how we got and maintained our shows on air. I think that under sort of the banner of breaking away from how we usually do things, it brought with it a new mentality. Across the board, this wasn't just the productions or operations or technology, it was all of us, all had to sit down and think differently about our approach. And that time is now echoing through where we are now, and is enabled us all to think slightly differently to where we would have done 3-4 years before. We all, including myself, have to get out of the comfort zone a little bit. We all know what works and we rely on what works, and for regular formatted shows, what did the job last year kind of ends up being the default of what does the job for this year. In the main, it still does, because that's a winning formula, but there's a lot of change around it that we've been able to embed. That is, it's not something you have to sell. It's something that we universally kind of commit to and agree to sort of try, or proof of concept stuff, or even just making permanent changes in there. But it doesn't feel like it's being driven by tech. It doesn't feel like it's being driven by anybody. It just feels like it's naturally part of the osmosis of the last couple of years that we all think slightly differently.
It's interesting what you said there, Peter, about doing proof of concept. I wonder if it's something that we could explore a little bit about that, because one of the things about proof of concept is they might fail. And I'm wondering if actually failure is just an accepted part of the process, as opposed to someone going, oh, why on earth have we done that?
I think our appetite for risk, really, which is part of that proof of concept, again has changed. Where we are going from here has to be different. If this isn't the time for change, then I don't know what is. And there is an acceptance now. We've done several, a couple of dozen of proof of concepts over the last couple of years. Quite a few of them have not worked out, but we learned a lot from those, and fail fast, I think, is the phrase that they use at the moment. And we have done that in those occasions and gone, well, we knew it was a bit close to the edge, but it had to be done. We now know what did and didn't work. Sometimes just those lessons learned is enough for the next time you have a go to be a success. Sometimes it absolutely did not work, and back on the shelf it goes, and we'll dust that off perhaps another time.
Is remote working now a part of that sort of broader discussion that you're having about how productions are made? Do you think that's now embedded in, this is just how life is going to be within television, that remote working is part of it?
Yeah, I think it's, it brings with it some positives and negatives. There's some good stuff in there and some challenges in there. The fact that people within productions and operations and technology now have a more flexible life, a better work-life balance is great. You can see that with the quality of the work and the ideas and creativity that's kind of coming out, that flexible life is affording that more. There are some challenges around it from a technology perspective. I used to enjoy downtime in order to get tech stuff done and some of our housekeeping out of the way. Flexible working means longer hours of sort of collective working because depending on people's day, around school collections or whatever it might be, people might start earlier, finish later, perhaps do a bit of the weekend in order to get some time off during the week or whatever it might be. And so from an engineering and support world, that's been a bit of a challenge in regards to ensure that we've got the right people available to support people using our tools at those kind of times. I think there is still a bit of a nasty taste of necessity about remote working, if I'm honest, at the moment. That it's something that we've all had to do for the last couple of years from necessity, and how we can sort of build that into the future in the right way rather than it still feeling a bit like being stuck indoors because you're not allowed to go anywhere. That's a difficult, and we're working through that now. We're moving buildings in London at the moment, and across all of our sites. ITV has a smart working policy in there in regards to working how you want to work, when you want to work, in the way that fits your world as much as ITV's. We're just starting to get a handle on having a proper strategy around that from a technology point of view, and where it fits and where it absolutely doesn't. And people are very happy to get back onto not necessarily an ITV site, but any site in order to work.
I think one of the other things that raises as well, Peter, you talked about flexible working there. The other thing I know that's happened within the industry is a lot of people have reassessed their view of the industry and whether they want to be involved in the industry. And as a consequence of that, competition for staff has increased because of the range of skills that are involved in television. And I'm wondering if that's something that you've seen as well.
Most definitely, yeah. I think it is an interesting time, I think, in regards to attracting talent. And I'm talking in a technology sense here rather than all production, and retaining them. I think everybody has had to sit on plans over the last couple of years and not be able to move around and perhaps do what they wanted to do, even within the business, within ITV, for example. It hasn't. We do a lot of exposure to different areas. You can go and go on a short-term placement or join a project in another team or whatever it might be in order to get a flavour of all of the things that technology does at ITV rather than the area you're necessarily in. That hasn't been possible as much over the last couple of years, and therefore I think people do have a bit of an itch for different. Technology in particular, I think, is an area where the skill set has changed in regards to the fact that my traditional competitors, and I won't list them out, but I'm sure they would know who they were, aren't necessarily my competitors now. When we have had people leave ITV to go off to change their careers and do other things, they are not going to companies that would have been on my list 5-6 years ago as a potential threat to me retaining key talent. And that's just because that technology skill set travels much wider as technology has become in such a boom over the last couple of years, and therefore there are transferable skills across lots of different industries, not just media, and therefore that is quite difficult. I think that's also meant that there are probably more roles than there are people as things currently stand, which means that some of the salaries that are being offered in the external market at the moment and the offers that are being made are substantial, and that really goes to reflect the fact that it doesn't matter what part of technology you're in at the moment, it's really difficult to bring those people into your business in order to develop that technology platform for whatever the services that you're offering. So we haven't got an answer for it yet at the moment. We're working it through. We realise it's not just a challenge for us, but for the industry as a whole. And I've been working with others in some areas in order to tackle that. I don't think it's going to go away. I don't think this is a short-term thing. I think this is here for a good while. And so how we rebalance, I suppose, the roles that we offer and how we develop them is something that we're running through at the moment.
We talked a little bit earlier, Peter, about how the pandemic has driven a lot of different things. Remote working, of course, being one of them. And you also spoke about that, you had ideas and plans perhaps before, but things have been accelerated. An area where I know that that's been really true is, of course, is working in the cloud and looking at the cloud as a workflow enabler. So I'm interested in your view of how that has changed over the course of the last few years and the kind of things that you're looking to do in the cloud now that you perhaps weren't doing 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I think the cloud has really enabled yet further global shrinkage for us. It just feels that the world is that bit smaller again, and the cloud really has been enabling us to explore that further. I think key examples of areas where that's come forward quicker than perhaps it would have done previously are being able to share work, or use different suppliers for work, or being able to get that material regardless of where you are on the globe. Having material sat in the cloud immediately means that you can start using providers that you've never used before, or we can start utilising different pockets of ITV in a slightly different way. We're not there yet, but that's a consideration that we're having. And by using different suppliers and providers and different talent, I think it does diversify your output. It does bring new ideas that you haven't necessarily had internally. It does bring a fresh set of eyes or a fresh set of experiences. That means that everything is just approached in a slightly different way. And I believe that's to the massive benefit of not just ITV from a technology point of view, but as a whole. The more we spread our wings and the wider opportunity that there is for working with us, regardless of your geography, has had benefit already, and I think again under the banner of sort of now becoming our strategic future, is absolutely firmly sat in that space. There are challenges around it, of course. The hybrid working, I don't think is going to go away. In regards to the fact there will always be that on-prem need. I still have a slightly probably traditional approach that the closer to live you are, the more likely I am to be on-prem when it comes to sort of play out and studio inserts, that kind of thing. Having that in the cloud, cloud doesn't go down very often, if that's the right phrase, but it's still more than I would like, as in any system. So I think we've still got some of that to do. I think hybrid is probably going to be here to stay in some of my areas for a good while yet. So while there are new challenges with it, the benefits far outweigh those, and I think those can be mitigated.
I know, speaking to some other customers and suppliers that are involved, that one of the things that they're also now has a higher profile, I guess, is something like a green agenda. So reducing your physical footprint, reducing perhaps office space and things like that. So again, is that something that ITV is looking at as it looks to its strategic future?
Yeah, it's a huge part of our thinking, and has been for a good couple of years. It's always been there for ITV, but I think it's now part of our strategic objectives. As a company, from the city to personally, it's across the board in regards to ITV's commitment. Interestingly as well, I think that the appetite is hugely there. Everybody is an active part in that at ITV. It's not something that is just on my ITV, our water cooler system of what's going on recently about not using plastic straws. It really is taken to heart right the way through.
Just going back a little bit to the sort of cloud workflows and things like that, you talked about proofs of concept. Are there some examples that you can talk about the kind of things that you've been looking to do? Is it storage in the cloud? Is it editing in the cloud? Is it newsrooms? What are the kind of things that you've tried out and perhaps have been a success?
Yeah, a bit of everything really in regards to our thinking. We have X number of systems internally. So storage is certainly one that we've been giving some consideration to in regards to what assets that we would want to put in there and what makes sense to have in the cloud. Remote editing has been a really big one. It's remote editing for us at the beginning of lockdown was usually dialing into a machine that was on an ITV site. That wasn't a remote working strategy, that was a necessity. But quite a lot of people have confused remote working with that, basically just dialing into something that exists somewhere in the ITV estate. What we've been really trying to do is move that completely to cloud-wise in order to ensure that we can really access it from anywhere with the right backups, the right DR around it, the right security. Everything around the cloud is, has a stronger level of scrutiny around keeping our assets safe and secure. But remote editing was the first one that we've really got into there. ITV Daytime were the absolute lead on that. In regards to the work they've done with Avid and with Microsoft and support partners in regards to getting a system properly up and running, which it duly is and has worked very well. That's kind of set the benchmark for where we want to be and the kind of services we want to be able to offer our productions internally. But one of many, I suspect. I don't think that there is, again, one build that's going to work for ITV. Even just the genres of show that we have, as you said, we've got news are in the mix there, absolutely. We've got sport, we've got so many different areas that a lot of the proof of concepts have started to tailor into those business areas. News already have a big piece of work underway in that particular space. Our proof of concept initially was a clear up because we'd all had to use whatever we could at the time, and therefore we had lots and lots and lots of different platforms and types of capability within ITV. We've sort of brought that together and started to consolidate that into, again, that more strategic vision of this is the approved tool from maybe the cost of it, the ease of use or familiarity of use of it, the security that's around it, the fact that we've got a contract and a legal agreement in place with that particular company, which therefore means it's on the preferred supplier list, that kind of thing. So a lot of the proof of concept work has been around remote working, mainly focused around edit or view capability, some of that being studio output, so that people who are working from home had high resolution, low latency capability to see studio floors that were still running because they were integral to the workflow for that studio, but working from home. Some of the proof of concept stuff I think will be coming probably towards the second half of this year, where we start tailoring that further into where we are heading.
What about, all of us at the moment are looking around and we can see that inflation is an issue for us in our normal lives, never mind what we're doing in work. So I'm kind of guessing from your perspective that there is an expectation from a budgetary perspective that you still have to deliver what you have to deliver. And so as a consequence of that, efficiency is really important to how you're having to work now. So how do you factor all of that into when it comes to doing productions?
So that's always a consistent theme, isn't it, in our entire industry as a whole, is, how can we be more efficient in any production or any tool set or system or workflow that we have? I think over the last 3, 4, 5 months, that's it's still there. It's just slightly changed, that because the cost of everything for all of us has gone up so substantially that we are currently in the realms of trying to make the same for the same, and trying to manage those increasing costs. So really the efficiencies we're trying to drive at the moment aren't necessarily about saving anything. They're more about maintaining what we are doing and our productions in that kind of form. Again, there is no one answer to this. If there was, I would have most definitely put my hand in the air well before now. But there are lots and lots of smaller things that we're doing. I think there is a lot of repeated work that we do between companies, that we could all be slightly better at working with one another to simplify processes between us. That's something that we've been working with several other names, that how can we work better between the two businesses, because we work a lot with one another. I think there are background tools that don't impact editorially, where again we either use third parties for those when we're probably quite capable of doing it ourselves, or regardless if we outsource it or insource it, if we push volume through it, we can make a saving through that approach. That tends to be more with background systems, and we've been going through that. So there's lots and lots of smaller work streams that we've got running in order to try and achieve that. Lots of challenges ahead, Peter, but I guess from what you said, an exciting time to be in the industry. Yeah, I think so. I don't know if everyone would agree, but I certainly think from leading technology for a producer broadcaster at this time is a fascinating place to be, with how the tone has changed, the opportunities that are out there, the tools that are available, in so many different ways and so accessible. It's without doubt the first time in my career where I don't feel that technology holds any choke on what we need to do or what we want to do to make great shows. It's there, it's capable of doing it, it's proven, and can be spun up very quickly these days. I haven't got to have 400 racks all sitting there ready to go and get the lorry parking spaces ready, and is available in a nature where we can just try it. Let's give it a go. Let's see what happens. Even if we dual run on something, if we feel that that's necessary, we can do that. And for me, that is just a fantastic set of opportunities. We've got some stuff we've got to do. As always with these things, there's some core architecture and foundational sides of things that we need to address in order that we can then start building some more of that innovation onto those kind of platforms. Everything that we had 3 years ago, we still have now, and that does mean that we've got some work to do in order to move us on into those spaces. Artificial intelligence has been a conversation that we've been having internally for 5-6 years. What I'm seeing these days is now close enough for usage within our production process. It wasn't 5 years ago, it absolutely is now. But probably the best part of all of this, I think, is that I now have people that are not in technology coming to talk to me about technology that they've seen, heard of, experienced, know about, read about, have seen on the television, wherever it might be, that they are keen on using, that they are, they sell into me and say, let's give this a go, let's give this a try. And that is golden territory as far as I'm concerned. Just fantastic to be able to have those kind of conversations rather than here come technology again to talk to us for another hour about whatever it is they want to do next. Total game changer, I think. And I'm so committed to us not going backwards, to us staying, keeping that temperature up and running and keeping that pace going. I think the other part of that for me is that a lot of the things we've done in the past, we buy it, we build it, and then we run it, and it runs for 5 to 8, as you well know in our world, and then we replace it, and there's not really very much happens between the finish the project and the replace. That's not the same in this world. We could be adding functionality, we could be making changes to it, we could be adding requirements to it, we can have a roadmap for it, we can develop it. It's never really done. It will meet an initial brief, but we can constantly add, build, change, develop that system forever and a day, and that I think is a really special thing, and gets me really excited.
It's great to talk to you, Peter, and your excitement and enthusiasm really comes across. There is a final question I ask everyone on the podcast, so I'll ask you. What is it, if anything, that keeps you awake at night?
Oh, anything that keeps you awake at night. I don't think there is anything particular. I suppose the one area that does keep me awake is being able to move fast enough. Will we be able to deliver these things at the speed that's required? Because there is such appetite for it. And it does feel that everyone has been in a holding pattern personally and professionally for so long that we're now all ready for change, and we kind of all want it now, and being able to deliver that in the way that's needed and in the right ways, and ensuring that all of the other due diligence is done, such as keeping our assets secure and keeping our systems awake and alive, and partnering with the right people with the pace of the desired change. That is probably one of the areas where does it keep you awake? Probably not, but it certainly nags in the back of my head.
I said to Peter after we finished that I thought that was the longest pause anyone has had when I asked that final question. But good to know he enjoys a good night's sleep. And thanks to Peter for sharing his insights. If you want to find out more about how Avid is enabling workflows in the cloud, then check out the show notes, where there's a link to our web pages on just that subject, covering areas such as cloud-hosted editing through Edit on Demand. You can also find a link to an article on the future of integrated media production in a distributed world. There is no doubt things are changing. As always, get in touch on social. I am Craig AW1969 on Twitter and Instagram, or email us. We are makingthemedia@avid.com. And of course, please leave a review, like, share and subscribe to the podcast to get notified when new episodes are out. And speaking of episodes, while we are taking a break, we are not going away completely. We're going to be re-releasing some of our favourite episodes every couple of weeks through July and August, in case you missed them first time round. So you can listen to great insights from senior leaders at companies such as the BBC, the Olympic Broadcasting Service, ABC News and more.
Versioning takes up an awful lot of time to get those versions right for the audiences who want to interact with it on that platform. So one size does not fit all. We know that, we have learnt that, and people, if you just put a big television package online, it doesn't work. It just does not work.
The Olympics are serious, but they're also a lot of fun. And to try and get that emotion conveyed through whatever technology will take us to a consumer, we want them to feel something from watching the content.
I think for many years we built broadcast systems that were built for us broadcasters, because it made us comfortable, made us happy, made us feel like we were in control and we were delivering a service to our customers. But truly, sometimes it was built for us.
Some great episodes there to catch up on. All that remains for me is to thank Peter and in fact all of our guests who've contributed through our second season. I'd like to thank the rest of the production team here at Avid for all of their help, Matt Diggs, Vim Vandenbroek, Owen Lynch, and also our theme music composer, the fantastic Greg Strike Chin. But most of all, thanks to all of you who subscribe and listen to the podcast. That's all from me, Craig Wilson, for now, as we close out Season 2 of the Making the Media podcast.